What's up, heathens? How ya doing? I'm the Godless engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a video from Daniel McCoy. According to the description on the video, he has a Master's of Arts in Apologetics. He also has a PhD in theology. But what he's going to tell us today is why atheists become atheists, but from a Christian perspective. So, I mean, he's most likely going to be completely wrong about why people are atheists. So, if you guys want to find out from a Christian why we're all atheists, then please stay tuned. Alright, heathens, so before we get into today's video, I do want to discuss a couple things with you. First of all, if you like this content here and you want to support the channel, consider going to citationfuckingneeded.com and you too can get yourself a shirt that says citation fucking needed so that you can just point to it whenever you're talking to religious people or just irrational people in general that don't bring citations whatsoever. You can get you a shirt that can say everything that you need to say for you. So, like I said, if you want to support the channel, go to citationfuckingneeded.com and get yourself a shirt. Another thing I wanted to discuss before we get into this video is why I'm an atheist, because atheists all have different reasons for why they are an atheist. Now, these could be generalized in some cases. Most of the time, atheists are just not convinced by the evidence that's presented that a God definitely does exist. So, that would be the reason why we're an atheist, but everybody has their own individual stories as to what brought them to that conclusion. But even if all of our paths to this conclusion are different, ultimately, we're just not convinced by the evidence. And I think that is the key takeaway from any video that attempts to explain to you why people become atheists. But we're going to hear from Daniel McCoy today about why he thinks people are atheists.
Why do people become atheists? There are many reasons given for why people stop believing that there's a God, but a reason that rises to the top for many people is the problem of so much suffering.
Well, I would say that the suffering argument isn't exactly at the top of the list, at least for me. I feel like it would be at the top of the list if we're talking about a specific definition of a God. In this case, it would be the Christian definition of a deity. But I think that for that particular definition, the problem of suffering is pretty detrimental. Now, there are some solid arguments to be made using biblical passages as to why God allows suffering in this world. And I think that if you're going to drink the Kool-Aid that hard, that it's fine if you want to believe in that. But the problem is when you try to suggest that God is all good. If God allows suffering to occur, then it seems like he's not a very good person. Like, just for instance, if I'm walking down the street and I see somebody that's mugging another person and I just watch it happen because I'm like, oh, free will and shit. I don't want to intervene because then I'm going to be restricting his free will and turning him into some other kind of species or something. If I were to do that, that would not make me a good person, right? Why is it different for God? Why is it that God sees suffering and even in some cases causes suffering to happen? Why is he given an exemption and is still a good being, like an ultimately good being? He sees bad shit happening, but he's still a good guy. I don't understand that. And I feel like that makes the Christian definition of a God illogical and irrational. Because you can't be an all-good being that's just omnibenevolent, but also allow bad shit to happen. So this is an argument against a specific definition of a God. Now, if you're talking about an ambiguous deity figure, like a more deistic God that just sort of exists out there and doesn't give a shit about us, is not a personal God, and doesn't really have all that much of a definition to him other than he just exists, then the problems of suffering and evil in this world world really don't matter as far as proving whether or not that God does or does not exist. Just for clarification, I'm agnostic on a more deistic type of God, while on specific definitions of God, I am an atheist, a hard atheist. I know that the Christian God doesn't exist. I know all the different versions of the Abrahamic God don't exist. All current definitions of any deity figure does not seem to comport with reality, and that's why I'm an atheist.
Atheist Andrea M. Weisberger explains that there is just so much evil in the world that if there were a good God, he would intervene. But since God permits such an incredible amount of evil in his world, then according to Andrea, he must not exist. Here are Andrea's words. Where was the intelligent designer of the universe when 1.5 million children were turned into smoke by zealous Nazis? Where was the all-powerful, all-knowing, holy, good being whose very essence is radically opposed to evil, while millions of children were starved to death by Stalin, had their limbs chopped off with machetes in Rwanda, were turned into amputees by the diamond trade in Sierra Leone, and worked to death even now by the child slave trade that by conservative estimates enslaves 250 million children worldwide. Without divine justice, all of this suffering is gratuitous. How then can a holy, good, all-powerful God be believed to exist?
Now, that woman has some really good questions for this Christian version of God, which is what that particular line of reasoning there was meant to show, that the idea of an omnibenevolent God just does not comport with what we experience in reality. If this God is omnibenevolent, or this good all the time and all the time he's good type of God, then why would he allow all of that bad shit happening? Small children being burned by the Nazis, or why children starve every day, or why kids are turned into amputees every single day. Like, why would God allow that kind of shit to happen? And God could definitely intervene and prevent things from happening. We hear all the time from religious people how God has taken direct action in their life. Normally it's to provide them with an A on a test, or to find their keys that were just lost in the couch. But it seems like when it comes to actual evil and suffering, God just sort of vanishes and watches from his couch up there in heaven. And I don't understand why religious people consider God to be omnibenevolent while he watches these horrible things happen to kids. So the argument that he's bringing forth here about suffering and all that is an argument against the Christian version of God, not against God on the whole, or any reason why anybody should be an atheist in general. That's probably one piece of the puzzle for Andrea, but that is not the complete picture of why she is an atheist. That's one particular issue that she has with the Christian definition of a God. Just wanted to get that out there to make sure that you guys understand that that is not the entire reason why she's an atheist, or even why she's an atheist at all. It's just why she doesn't believe in this omnibenevolent definition of a God.
Now, that's some major evil that people do to each other, and it is hard to see so much suffering without hurting inside. And sometimes even in the Bible, faithful people would see evil and would ask God why he didn't do something about it.
That's a really good question. Let's ask God and see what he says about why he allows evil to happen. So let's jump on over to our podium here. Turn in your Bibles to Isaiah 45:7. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Oh, well, fucking shit. It seems like God's already told us that he is definitely an evil sumbitch. But it's because he automatically defines himself as omnibenevolent that when he does evil shit, that's actually good. If I were to walk up to you and slap you in the face, and then I say, oh, but that was a good thing that I did because I can only ever be good, would you then think that it was a good thing that I slapped you in the face? In the same vein of that, when we read in Numbers 31 that God has commanded the Israelites to go into another city, into another culture, and just kill every man and small boy, and then every woman that's not a virgin, but keep all of the little virgin girls for themselves, themselves as spoils of war so that they can force them into sexual slavery in the Israelite tribe, I am just as confused when you tell me that this God is omnibenevolent and all good. Just because you baselessly claim, well, God is the standard of good, anything that he does is good, just because you baselessly claim that does not make him all good. If I can rationalize why that God is an evil sumbitch just using my own subjective morality, what does that say about this all good God, this omnibenevolent God? It kind of makes him seem like he's an asshole that is stuck in the Bronze Age or Iron Age or whatever in the fuck age. Just kind of seems like he's stuck in the past of what is considered good at the time. Because we wouldn't consider hardly anything in the Old Testament to be good now. At one particular point in the Old Testament, God is threatening the Israelites just because they allowed other religions to practice within Israel. How is that good? How is this an omnibenevolent God when he can't even take another religion even existing? Thank you for coming to my TED Talk on what an asshole God is.
Psalm 6 verse 3 says, "My soul is in deep anguish. How long, Lord, how long?" Now, it's one thing to cry out to God in pain and confusion. It's another to try to think through exactly what we're asking God to do.
What am I asking God to do? I'm asking God to pop in the moment one of his priests tried to diddle a little child and, I don't know, probably knock around their balls a little bit. Like, just quick, boom, and, then pop back out and, send a clear message to this priest that, hey, this is bad shit. You shouldn't be doing this bad shit. And, God used to do that a lot. Not exactly popping into reality and punching somebody in the ball sack, but, just having a more active role in his chosen people. I feel like that if God were to actually exist, the specifically Christian definition of God, it's really not out of the realm of reason for him to pop into existence and punch a pedophile priest in the dick. I really think that right there doesn't violate his free will at all. It doesn't really violate anything other than the fact that now this priest has a broke dick, which he probably should have started off with. That's all that I'm asking God to do. If he really exists, pop in and punch a priest in the dick. That's all I want.
If we're asking God to do something about all the evil that people do to each other, well, in exactly what way are we asking him to intervene? There seem to be three possibilities as to how God could get rid of the evil that people do to each other.
Only three possibilities for how God can get rid of evil? That seems extremely limited for this all-knowing God of the universe. I feel like he could come up with a lot of different ways. I mean, there's the I Dream a Genie way where he just goes, boom, and then, evil is gone. It's just vanished, and we live in utopia. Like, there's that one. I mean, he could wiggle his toe. I mean, he could do anything. He could just make it vanish, right? And so, but even then, I would think that any possible problems that could potentially cause, he could definitely circumvent. I mean, he's God. He's all powerful. He's all knowing. He's omnibenevolent. He could definitely figure out a path that leads to no bone cancer in small children, right? There's definitely a possible path where he tells the Catholic Church to stop it with all the kid diddling. Like, there's definitely paths where he could rid the world of evil.
First, God could simply get rid of all human evil. No more lies, no more stealing, no more abuse. Obviously, taking away all evil would also take away our ability to make meaningful moral choices.
I really don't think that taking away all evil in an I Dream a Genie fashion would take away our ability to have our own morals and free will and stuff. I don't think that it takes any agency away from us. I mean, I feel like God could definitely figure out a way, considering he's all knowing, to take away all the evil but still allow us to have all of that shit. Here's the issue. That's not my problem that you have set up a definition for God that would allow allow him to do all of that and still remain consistent because you've given him this all-knowing type of label. Like, you say that he's all-knowing, but he can't figure out a solution to this shit, then he's not all-knowing.
Getting rid of the possibility of human evil kind of gets rid of humanity itself. We would become a different, less human species.
Wait a second. So, from the Christian perspective, evil entered into this world when Eve decided to eat the fruit, right? That she was told not to eat. But yet, Eve, before God could even finish the sentence, was like, oh, the snake told me to do it, kind of thing. Were we a different species prior to Eve eating the apple? What kind of GMO apple would cause us to change species, as you're saying here? Prior to us eating the apple, we would have been human. We just would have been absent of evil, because evil didn't enter this world until she took a bite. I guess I'm just not understanding why in Christianity, in the Old Testament, why is it that prior to Eve eating the apple, are we human and not evil, and evil's not in the world, evil's not in the picture, there's no evil whatsoever, but now it's a problem. Like, why is it a problem now? Like, for him to just remove evil. It's like, God, quit being a dick. Take all this evil out of here. We get it. You're really pissed off at Eve still, but maybe you could just stifle the evil a little bit. But you see, here's the problem, is that the whole introduction of evil is integral to Christianity, because they got to guilt trip you into believing that you're a flawed individual. If you'll notice in what he said that humanity, part of what it means to be human is to be evil. I don't know if you caught that, but that's what he said. And I really don't think that it's part of humanity to be evil. I think humanity can exist without evil in its configuration. I really do not think that evil is a prime component of humanity.
But that would be one way of getting rid of human evil. Second, God could get rid of the worst kinds of human evil. For example, mass murder. As atheist Richard Carrier puts it, when a shooter starts shooting, a loving person with godlike powers could simply turn his bullets into popcorn as they left the gun.
Or a loving deity or God could pop into existence and, stop that mass murderer from shooting up the church. Or if prayer actually worked, then nobody would ever have cancer. My dad wouldn't have had to have a quadruple bypass. Just nothing bad would ever happen if prayer actually worked. But it kind of seems like prayer doesn't work, and God really doesn't give a shit about your problems. He just watches from afar and doesn't do anything about it. Unless you lose your keys in the couch, and then he'll definitely help you find that shit. Or if you're studying really hard for a test, he'll help you get an A on it, even though you spent the entire night prior to that studying in order to get the A. So instead of giving yourself the credit, you give this God a credit, because obviously God is the one that put all that shit into your brain. It's not like you studied or anything, right? My point is that God could definitely intervene in some kind of way, even if it's on behalf of another person praying for that thing to happen. And as far as getting rid of specific human evils, God could definitely do that and not violate any kind of free will or take away our free will, turn us into robots or anything like that. He could figure out a way because he's all-knowing, and so there's gotta be a solution to that. If there's not a solution to it, does that mean that God is not all-knowing?
By intervening, God could at least get rid of the most devastating instances of evil. And third, God could fight against evil internally. In other words, God could combat human evil by transforming the human heart.
Oh, that sounds like another way. Instead of popping into existence and punching the priest in the dick, he could, I guess, violate his free will or something and change his heart? I mean, doesn't God already do that whenever people come to him? But I feel like God already doing this, to some people, but not others. If he could just extend that to everybody, I feel like that would make him a good God to make everybody not evil. It seems like an easy, like I Dream of Genie kind of thing that he could do. Here's the issue, is that Christians, well, not Christians necessarily, but the Bible has presented a magical God that is all-powerful, all-knowing, and omnibenevolent, but yet has irregularities within the Bible that kind of make us question whether or not he's actually all good or all-knowing. But to add insult to injury here, you guys have made God this magical. Like, this is your fault that there are so many different ways that God could handle the problem of evil, that he could do all of these things and it still be okay. Because God is the one that says it's okay. God is the standard for you guys, and so whatever God does is good. So if God were to get rid of all of the evil in everybody, just blink it out of existence, that would still be seen as a good thing. But you guys have Stockholm syndromed yourself into the position of thinking that God is good by allowing bad shit to happen.
Now think back to our atheist friend who thinks that God should do more to stop human evil. Which of these three options is our friend asking God to do? Well, it's not the third option, because that's precisely what God is already doing. The atheist is not asking God to combat human evil by transforming the human heart. Why not? Well, because that's what the God of the Bible is constantly doing.
Yeah, but by force on a lot of occasions. Like, if you just look at the Old Testament, God commands them to just eradicate and kill everybody that's seen as bad. That would just be anybody that worships another god, right? They're seen as bad. They're seen as the opposition. They're seen as the evil in the land. When God says in the Old Testament to purge the evil from among you, he means to kill motherfuckers. So how can God be omnibenevolent and command people to kill other people? I don't understand this, and I feel like this is one of the fundamentally illogical things about the God of the Bible, is that he's apparently good, but yet he commands bad shit to happen. He directly tells the Israelites to do bad shit. He even does bad shit directly to the Israelites just because they get a little lippy.
Rather, the atheist is requiring that God either take away all evil, or at least take away the worst forms of evil. After all, the atheist cares deeply that evil, or at least the worst forms of evil, be erased.
I mean, if he's an omnibenevolent God and he controls all of reality, and we're just sort of his pawns in whatever kind of sick, game that he has going on here, yeah, I would think that God could just blink shit out of existence. I mean, he just causes other things to come into existence, right? He can make a statue cry holy tears, but at the same time, he can't stop a kid from getting bone cancer, or he can't stop kids that are in those sweatshops or whatever the fuck. But he can make a statue cry supposedly magical water? You're telling me that he can do all these things, like appear on toast, but he can't stop a kid from getting abused by their parents? See, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
And since God doesn't do that, then the atheist feels justified in concluding that God doesn't exist. Evil is that big a deal to the atheist.
No, specifically we say that your definition of God doesn't exist. That's what I would say that all of this kind of concludes with, is that the God of the Bible, the Abrahamic God in all of its forms, is irrational and illogical and most likely doesn't exist. That's what it says. It doesn't say that God in general doesn't exist, but your specific definition of God. See, generally when atheists come to the conclusion that whatever specific definition of God that they believed in doesn't exist, they typically will look for God elsewhere. They'll try to figure out whether or not God does actually exist. But the problem is that when you start looking for evidence of God, you actually don't find evidence of God. If God does exist, then he's done a really good job of making it look like he does not exist.
Now here's where things get fascinating. The atheist says he wants God to do something radical to take away evil. It sounds like the atheist would be willing to even go without human freedom, and even do away with human nature altogether in order for evil to be abolished.
No, I don't think that he has to take away human nature. Why can't he just transform it into something different, and then that's human nature, and that is human free will? Like, I feel like changing reality in that way should be an easy thing for God. I mean, he created most, like 99% of the universe on the first day, right? So it kind of seems like him just transforming things about redefining certain things. I feel like that's definitely in his wheelhouse of tricks.
And yet, I can point to quotation after quotation after quotation where atheists are angry with God for trying to fix evil, even at the heart level.
No, we're not angry with God because we don't believe in God. So we can't be angry. Like, I'm not angry at unicorns because they're not letting us use their magical horns to cure cancer. I'm not mad at unicorns for not allowing us to do that. Just like I'm not mad at God for anything that he hasn't done, because he most likely hasn't done anything. So to, frame atheists as being angry at God is just a bit of a straw man there. Because we're not angry at God for doing anything. We're angry at how people tell us that, oh, yeah, this really bad shit exists, but we just have to suck it up because we're to blame for it. We're mad at people telling us that it's our fault that cancer exists.
Atheists angry with a God who tells us to submit to him. Anger toward a God who gives us commands to follow. Anger toward a God who encourages us to have faith in him.
No, again, we're angry with people telling us to submit to this definition of God that you hold. We're angry at people that tell us that in order to be a good person, I have to submit to this imaginary deity figure that most likely doesn't exist. That's what we're angry about. We're not angry at God because God is telling us to submit. We're angry at people telling us to submit ourselves to this definition that we're just not even convinced exists. We also have to question, why does God need us to submit? That just seems like a very toxic and abusive relationship, to demand that somebody submit to you in order for you to do something good for them. That just seems abusively toxic.
And a lot of anger toward a God who in the Bible, when evil got really out of hand, would send judgment to punish evil.
Oh. Was God issuing judgment when he commanded the Israelites to utterly destroy the Midianites or the Canaanites or anybody else in the Bible that was minding their own tribal business and was just doing their own thing? And then the Israelites come up over the ridge and was like, God is with us! And then attacked them and killed everybody in the town. What about that one time that the Israelites went in and circumcised an entire town, and while they were recovering from having their dicks cut a little bit, they ended up just killing them anyways? I don't know what the purpose of, I guess they are the ones that circumcised themselves and weakened them, and so the Israelites could come in and kill everybody and just utterly destroy them. Do you see my point here?
But don't these atheists realize that these things they are angry with God about are the very things which God does to combat evil?
I feel like God could combat evil without committing genocide. I don't know, maybe that's just my fucked up human sense of how you can solve shit, but I feel like genocide should be the last resort for anything, if even an option at all.
Submitting to God, obeying his commands, placing our faith in him, and fearing a God who judges and who punishes evil, all of these are very effective ways which God combats human evil by transforming the human heart.
God has also explicitly defined exactly how bedazzled his throne room should be. God has also defined what incense or what fire should be used to light the incense. And when two priests, Aaron's sons, didn't use the right ones, he caused them to explode by shoving a fireball up their ass. That seems like a reasonable God that I want to submit to. Yeah. Now listen, if you don't use this Zippo lighter, but use that Zippo lighter, I will shove them both up your ass and cause you to explode. That seems reasonable.
It's very clear that even if atheists care about fixing the problem of evil, they also tend to care a lot about human freedom. They may want to get rid of a lot of the evil in the world, and they also want to stay free, which is really fascinating because those two things are precisely what the God of the Bible cares about too.
Well, so as far as human freedom goes, I feel like the free will argument, I don't really think that we have like the free will that he thinks that we have. I don't think that everybody in humanity has the ability to senselessly murder other individuals. These are not choices that we can make. You're either capable of that or you're not. And there's a bit of a nuance there, because I would say in certain situations, I'm capable of killing a motherfucker, but that would heavily depend on the context of the situation. If you're going to come at me with a knife and threaten to kill my family, I would definitely do my best to stop you without killing you, but if that's the only resort that I have, then I would definitely take your life versus letting you just kill my family. You know, given those particular nuances, not everybody is able to just senselessly and cold-bloodedly murder other individuals or commit other heinous acts or be evil in general. In fact, I would say that I, for the most part, am not evil, but the God of the Bible would label me as inherently evil. And that's exactly the message that he's getting through to us here. He's trying to suggest that humans are by nature evil, and that's part of our free will, and that everybody can just make the decision to be evil. I really don't think that's the case. I don't think that anybody can just make the free will decision to slice somebody's head off. I don't think that that is in everybody's wheelhouse. But he seems to think, he generalizes everybody as having this evil part of themselves that only God can take away. Only God can cure it. So you got to submit yourselves and praise that God, suck his dick, and you will not be evil anymore because he'll forgive you of the evil that's inherent inside of you. That's bullshit.
God clearly cares about fixing the problem of human evil, but he also cares about giving us freedom. If God cares about precisely the same things that the atheist cares about, then maybe our atheist friend should consider giving God another look.
No, I'm not going to give God another look, but it also, what you just said right there kind of makes me consider some things that are in the Bible, specifically the idea that God cares about us having our own free will. If I remember correctly, and honey, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but isn't the Old Testament, the entire Old Testament is about how God is angry at people that aren't doing the things that he wants them to do? And so, like, He wants to force them to do things that he wants them to do, and if they step out of line, he punishes them, and he kills them, and everything like that. Yeah, that's what he does? Yep. He fucking kills people that doesn't do what he wants them to do? I mean, this just seems really fucked up. If I put a gun to somebody's head, and I say, you can do whatever you want, but unless you do what I want you to do, I'm going to shoot you in the head. Is there really a decision to be made there? Like, is there really free will? I mean, sure, that person can choose to do something that I don't want them to do, but they're going to end up getting killed. So is it really a decision for him? Is there really any kind of free will in that situation? Because I feel like it's the exact same situation that exists in the theology of the Bible. Is that God has this proverbial gun to our heads and is saying, do what I want you to do, or I will fuck you up. It doesn't seem like free will to me. It seems like do what I want you to do, or I'm gonna kill your ass. Doesn't really seem like a free will choice to me. But anyways, that's it for Daniel McCoy's video here. If you will, please go down below. Let me know what you think about the sentiments that he expressed in this video. Do you think God is still omnibenevolent? Do you think that he's all good? Let me know down below in the comments. And hey, while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.